This meeting of the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners is now called to order. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Fretham.
Here.
Mattis Castillo.
Here.
McDonough.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Here.
Carter.
Here. Thank you very much. Commissioner McDonough, would you please honor us with the Pledge of Allegiance while the rest of us all mute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. The agenda of our November 10th meeting is before you. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? Would the clerk please call the roll?
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. The minutes of our November 3rd meeting are before you. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
For the motion and second, any discussion on the minutes? Would the clerk please call the roll?
McDonough.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Reinhardt.
Aye.
Fretham.
Aye.
Mattis Castillo.
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. The minutes are passed. And we're moving on now to the section of our meeting where we will have a COVID update. It is marked as COVID information. And I know because of all of the moving parts currently, County Manager has planned a more extensive update. I'll turn to the County Manager. County Manager O'Connor.
Commissioner Carter, could you move your microphone closer?
Thank you. And so I'm turning to County Manager O'Connor for the COVID update.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members, we'll do a brief COVID update today. We're not going to do a full update with the data dashboard, but Deputy County Manager Hadeen is here as well to share an update. You received an email from me last night, just a few pieces of summary to recap on that. We are definitely at the point where as an organization, we are dealing with the increasing impacts of COVID-19 right now. Within our organization, we're seeing multiple areas with multiple positive cases, which are going to and already are in some ways challenging our staffing and service delivery as we go forward. We also know that some of our providers in the community, particularly those serving people experiencing homelessness, are beginning to see increasing case rates as well, which leads to broader concerns about that spreading beyond one place across the entire homelessness response system. We're really at the part where we realize we've been talking for a number of months about fall, colder weather, people closer to one another indoors and what that could mean. Coupled with an election that did bring a lot of people into close proximity with one another last week, it truly is in some ways the perfect storm for what we had predicted to come to fruition. The weeks ahead are going to fully test our resolve and commitment as a community to keeping one another safe. As we've seen the spread continue to increase, we are seeing, as I mentioned, more and more staff testing positive for COVID-19. You've seen the state's cases reach almost 6,000 per day. We saw on Sunday 528 cases in Ramsey County alone. That was our highest day. Asymptomatic spread is one of the biggest things. As Kathy and I spend time talking about this, one of the biggest challenges for her and her team are the number of people who report they don't know where they contracted COVID. Our positivity rate was up to 7.6% on October 24th and has continued to rise. 5% is a number at which things get very concerning from the state's public health perspective. And so this is leading to staffing shortages in hospitals and long-term care facilities. We're now seeing that trickle into other parts of our organization as well. We are making plans around the idea of significant numbers of staff being out, how we will respond in the moment, how we will move staff around and make decisions. That's a question being asked as part of the November service delivery forms that are out with departments right now. More to come on that in the weeks ahead, but just be aware we're doing all we can to plan, but there's a part of it where COVID travels silently and shows up unannounced, and so you have to respond in the moment. As an organization, public health continues to work with all departments to ensure people have the information they need to help prevent exposures and mitigate further spread. Communications continues to support messaging that states that every small individual decision we make can make a big difference right now. That's limiting our social circles, wearing masks, staying spaced out, washing our hands, staying home if we're sick. These all matter. The countywide mask policy is also currently being updated to address continued new information and best practices, and we continue to ask staff who do not need to work in the office to accomplish their work from home. Basically, what we're seeing within staff are the same types of things that we're seeing everywhere else, which is people are tired, people are frustrated with a virus that is stubborn and won't just go away, and that there are moments when it's almost easier just to wish it away than it is to have to continue in the slog that 2020 has often been. We're going to continue to work with our staff to support them, to try to make sure, and a big part of our work lately has been talking about how we continue as an organization to engage with each other as humans who are naturally social beings whenever possible. How do we make opportunities to try to allow people to find ways to connect? Life can become, as you all know, very transactional over a video screen. Finally, I think it was about an hour after I sent the update with Director Hadeen to you last night, the Commissioner of Health sent a separate message to all elected officials in Ramsey County, basically restating the information in some ways that I just shared with you, that the positivity rate was now greater than 5%. If you'd like to know more about the letter and what drives that, Deputy County Manager Hadeen is here today to answer questions as we go. I'll leave the update there, Madam Chair, but as I mentioned, Deputy County Manager Hadeen and I are both here. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have as we enter the next challenging phase of COVID here this fall. Thank you.
And thank you very much. We do appreciate your being here and having Director Hadeen here also today so that commissioners might ask additional questions as it's necessary. I'll call first on Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Chair Carter. Just a quick question, Ryan, and thanks for the update. Appreciate the letter last night. You know, when this all started, the partners did a really nice job of reducing the jail population almost by 50%. And I know AMC is working on a statewide task force on how do we maybe keep that way moving forward. And I know I was a part of a lot of those discussions, and a lot of the counties were concerned because they were seeing their jail populations rise and kind of get back to that. Where are we at with our jail population? Have we been able to keep that at that low level throughout all this and moving forward as a spike occurs here? Because that's another spot where you've got a lot of people in a confined area that put a lot of people at risk. And I'm just wondering where we're at. If we need to revisit, if our numbers have jumped up, do we need to revisit and maybe go back to see if we can get those numbers down where they were or even lower? Thanks, Madam Chair.
Commissioner McDonough, Madam Chair, I will follow up with the board with the specific numbers that relates to corrections in the jail. They were in, I remember reading them as a part of the October service delivery forms when I was signing off and making final comment, but I think it's actually important to see the time over time. And what I'll say at a broader level is we are well below where we started, but we are not as low as we at one time were. And so the points about being concerned, both from a perspective on the idea that building alternatives to incarceration is a better long-term strategy in many instances, as well as from the health impacts you just rose, I think we should have a level of concern in that space. And I think DCM Hadeen may be able to add more.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McDonough, thanks for the question. The facilities do continue to keep numbers low. I do know as of yesterday within the Ramsey County Correctional Facility that we are at 90 people. We're also monitoring COVID positives within other jail systems across the state, knowing that those who are close by may need to come over here to Ramsey County for court dates as well. And so we continue to have a very robust plan that continues to work for us around making sure that people stay isolated for a period of time, that they get tested regularly within our jail systems so that we can further mitigate spread. And it seems to be working for us. Our numbers are not even close to the numbers, and I should knock on wood saying that, as our facilities that are in our neighboring counties.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Commissioner McDonough, and we will continue to observe and report back in that area. I'll call in Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Chair Carter. My question is more related to our staff and staff infections. Are we seeing any instances for our staff who report COVID-19 infection where transmission is happening, where we think it's happening potentially in the workplace, or where adherence to masking and social distancing protocols is becoming more lax? And if so, how does that get addressed on the ground level?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Fretham, thanks for the question. Community spread is so high right now, and specifically going back to County Manager O'Connor's intro, we're really looking at 15 to 19-year-olds and 20 to 35-year-olds, but that transmission, like we said, is very high on asymptomatic. And so it is reaching into our workplace. We are seeing instances in a few different places where we suspect that some of the spread is because of people being near each other in the workplace. So we are addressing that right now. We are really working with leadership across the county system to make sure that people who don't need to be doing their work in the office space can accomplish that work fully from their homes. So we are working, we have safety officers who work with our departments who connect on making sure that people have adequate distance. We are, like was said earlier, we are updating our mask policy, and we need to continue to enforce that mask policy. That's what's going to keep people safe. But we are starting to see more and more spread within our systems and are addressing them on a case-by-case basis, as well as messaging across our county system.
Thank you. Chair Carter, I have one other question.
Go ahead.
Thanks. Is the shift to distance learning that we're seeing in our school districts also impacting our staffing? And if so, are we still offering a child care support to staff? And if we are they able to find it?
Chair Carter, Commissioner Fretham. So we are not operating the child care support to staff that we started at the beginning of COVID-19, in part because of very low utilization, and those who we were most worried would be impacted in a negative way with the least amount of means or resource were not the ones taking full advantage of the program. And when we spent time digging into that, and I don't want to draw scientific level conclusions to our work, but what we found is that flexibility in work hours and in work locations made a greater difference on ensuring continuity of childcare than did straight up offering to provide it on behalf of the organization. And what we saw was that people's desire to be able to flex with others in their household to ensure that they could be doing childcare while balancing professional needs, and this has routinely come up throughout our response, remains one of the biggest, I'll call it a benefit that Ramsey County has been able to offer to employees. A few weeks ago, Director Curry had sent an email to all of you talking about the continued efforts to move toward a broader schedule within the financial assistance area, which both helps residents who are trying to access the system, as well as our employees who were then offered opportunities to work on different shifts. And so that's been the biggest thing. We do not believe we have a significant issue as childcare has shifted back and forth, in part because we have done all we can to prevent bringing large numbers of people back into the workforce anyway. And one of the biggest reasons why we have announced the continuation of the current policies until April is because we don't have good answers societally for how to work with families if everyone's being required to come to work while schools remain in a state of flux.
Thank you very much for those questions, Commissioner, and for the responses as well. Commissioner Matis Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the update. My question is more about other partner facilities. So we are seeing some outbreak in Lake Owasso and our care center, and many partner and civilian agencies are also seeing breakouts. And I'm now hearing concerns, especially on residential group homes and assisted homes, that because staffing is so low, they may have to send folks back home or to guardians. And so what I'm wondering is there assistance that we're able to provide, or is there a coordinating effort around staffing of facilities, either through us or through the state, to make sure that those systems can continue to operate?
Madam Chair and Commissioner Mattis-Castillo, this is the tough one. This is where we are hurting across our entire community. And so staffing shortages are going to be seen almost everywhere. What we are working to do to help from the public health department is continuing to be aware of what is going on. We offer coordination for testing as well. And so we make sure we have partner organizations like Open Cities who we work with to make sure that they can also help with testing. We also can help provide some mobile testing in some of these areas, and then we coordinate with the state emergency operations center there too. When it comes to staffing, those are some of the issues that we have here within our county system. We know one of the things that we're working on for us, specifically within social services, is within detox. For example, we know that we can, unfortunately, limit the amount of people who come in, which creates a different barrier, but it allows staff and people who are already there to stay healthy, and it allows us to have adequate staff. None of these solutions are perfect solutions, of course, during this time. Within the care center, we also know that we have an isolation unit that doesn't have as many people within it, and there are need across our system for that isolation unit. And so we work across our system to work with other long-term care centers and to work with Minnesota Department of Health to make sure that we are adequately staffed to be able to take in more people into that unit if needed during this time. And then, of course, you mentioned Lake Owasso. We're seeing a lot of positives right now. Right now, staffing is okay. We are working within our system to work with public health nurses as well, because there are people within different parts of our system who do have the ability to step in to help during this crisis time. So we are working on our contingency plans to make sure that we have staff available, they're backgrounded, they're ready to go if they need to step in case others continue to get sick.
And just one more piece, if I could add to that. So in early October, when departments, maybe the second week in October, when departments submitted their last round of service design documentation, I would say somewhere between 30 and 50% of departments cited concerns already about areas in which staffing was becoming a challenge. That was so three or 4 weeks ago. And if you remember back, I mean, we were facing at that time a much subdued virus relative to where we sit today. So the bottom line in our conversations internally has been we need to work to continue to support the entire ecosystem that the county operates, which may mean we ask people to take on roles that they haven't always done. We may ask them to step up in new ways. And we're really working through to make sure we can do that now with some level of prioritized hierarchy. The biggest, I think for us, if we were to overextend into trying to support the broader community, then we would end up asking the state to have to support us because we wouldn't have the ability. And so it is that part of we need to put our own, I'm talking masks. It's like putting your oxygen mask on a plane and before you put on everybody else's. We actually right now need to make sure that we're putting ours on as we go. And we need to also continue to support the asks of partner agencies with the state through MDH and through their emergency operations system so that they are getting the support they need as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Castillo. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My colleagues have really asked the questions that I wanted to ask, but I want to give a shout out to healthcare professionals. My family has had the unfortunate situation where my mother, not due to COVID, but has had to go to the hospital because she can't walk. And so she's spent the last 6 days in the hospital, was being transported to a rehab center, and they sent her back because they didn't have enough staff for the rehab center, which was very situationally unfortunate. They've got a new place for her now, so they did find a place, but it is really evident that the staffing shortages are there. And so whatever we can do about staffing, she's in temporary, she'll only be there for 2 weeks, and it's really hard to see the workers that are working so hard and they just want to do their best job, but they just don't have the people to do the work that needs to get done. So whatever we can do to help with that, I mean, at the hospital as well, it was very evident that there's shortages, there's staff shortages.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire, just one piece to end on. You know, it can at times feel like we become scolds professionally by asking people to keep a distance and not go out and have too much fun and wash their hands and wear masks when we realize how hard that is for humans to do. And yet the reason we continue to have to say that and need to continue to say that is because of what you just explained. If we don't do that, the outcome becomes a lot along the questioning. I mean, you put an anecdote to the questions that other commissioners asked before that, and it's hard. It is always hard for us as individuals in the moment when it is a global pandemic that is so big to feel like we can make a difference. But when you see how one person at times can be the one who, for whatever reason, can be the person who infects 20 others, it can make a difference. And we will continue to push those messages. It's not fun to always push those messages. You know, you're being the one in the room who's not bringing fun to the party, but it's important for us to continue to do, and we'll continue to do that because that is part of what we need to do.
Thank you.
And so thank you very much to commissioners for all your questions and concerns, as this is 8 months in now to since the time of the stay-at-home order. We continue to see great spikes in our community, or we see a new great spike. And we are looking forward to positive solutions down the road. But in the meantime, it is important to remember that we must be as diligent even as before, and perhaps even more as we move toward those positive developments, i.e. vaccine, that can help us get through and beyond our COVID-19. So I want to say thank you to our Director Hadeen, Public Health and Health and Wellness Deputy, Kathy Hadeen, and also to County Manager O'Connor for providing this information on COVID-19. And if there are no further questions, I believe the County Manager has wrapped up the update. If not, you'll let me know.
Madam Chair, just one final thing to stay tuned for today. The governor is going to speak today later on and provide some sort of update to Minnesotans about thoughts around the state's continued response to COVID-19 as the case rates have gone up. I think we haven't had an update kind of coincide with a board day in a while, but it's going to be a signal, I think, for all of us to be watching as we look forward to this winter and better understand the state's approaches. He's been signaling, obviously, some sort of targeted, I believe he called it surgical approach in the newspaper this morning. But we'll be watching that carefully, and we'll provide additional updates as it impacts our facilities, if it does in any way, later today.
Thank you very much. We'll all be looking forward to hearing from our governor regarding the surgical approach that will be taken to ensure we all remain safe. And so we're going to move on.
Madam Chair, I have a question about
Commissioner
that.
McGuire.
So I understand he's speaking at 2, and we have a workshop at 1:30. So I'm just wondering if there was going to be a provision for us to listen, or do we need to tape it? I maybe I have my timing off, but I heard that he was speaking at 2, and our workshop would coincide with that.
I don't know exactly what time that will be. I'll check in to see if the county manager would know, but I am positive that we would be able to find it, even should we end up overlapping with that. County manager, is there any update?
Madam Chair, I believe it is at 2 o'clock today. We will have staff watching it who are the ones most directly tied to the response side, and we can do a short email with a link that goes out to the board so that you have it to be able to watch as soon after the workshop as possible, if that would be helpful to the board.
That would be very helpful, I'm sure. Thank you so much. And so completes our COVID information, and we will close out with a brief moment of silence in recognition of the trials that we are going through and the dedicated work of all of us. That moment of silence. Thank you very much. We continue to remember that there are impacts in not only our facilities, but in our staff and our families and throughout our communities. We'll move on then to our administrative items. Commissioner McDonough.
Thank you, Chair Carter. We have 3 items on the administrative item. I'll move the first one, 2020-494, First Amendment to Joint Powers Agreement with the Ramsey County Geographic Information System Users Group. The second one is 2020-510, participation in the Special Service Improvement District for downtown St. Paul. And the third one is 2020-287, appointments to the Ramsey County Citizens Advisory Council. All
Thank
3
you
are moved.
very much. Is there a second?
Second.
I appreciate the motion and the second on all 3 items on the administrative agenda. Is there any discussion? Would the clerk please call the roll?
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Fretham,
Aye.
Matas Castillo,
Aye.
Carter.
Aye. Thank you very much. The administrative agenda has passed, and I will turn this back then to County Manager O'Connor for our county connections.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I can do more than just be somber, I swear, and I'm going to allow someone else to deliver good news to you today. I'm going to turn it over to Chief Financial Officer Alex Kutza to talk about the county's recent bond sale process and subsequent rating.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I do get the honor of coming here today with some good news for a change during hard times. And it was just published yesterday and this morning that both Moody's and S&P maintained our AAA bond rating with a stable outlook. So that is really great news. I wanted to highlight a couple of things that they mentioned in their reports, which are online and public. I can send a link later today. They mentioned our strong regional economy. They mentioned our strong management and financial operations with ample reserves and excellent budgeting. And they also mentioned our low debt burden. So those are all great things. And you will see next week the sale of the actual bonds, which will be done on Monday.
So, and I'll add one last thing, Madam Chair, from participating in the interviews with both entities. More than in the past, there were questions as rating agencies have watched communities across the country convulse from the challenges of COVID, from the killing of George Floyd. There were questions about how are you as an organization that is working in the public sector, working with community to do this work? Because part of the outlook for the rating needs to be the idea that you're not doing this in an island in a way that creates challenge. And we got to talk about our racial equity and community engagement work and how that matters. We got to talk about the compliance and oversight team that was also created during the pandemic. And so I just want to highlight that those actions had direct relevance to these conversations with rating agencies in ways that didn't always come up in past years. And it's a further demonstration that it is important to both do the work from a financial management perspective, but also engage our community and everyone in our community as a part of that work to ensure a stable and strong outlook as we go forward. So congratulations to Alex and her team. She led many new people through this process, and it's always a challenging process. And with that, we'll stand for any questions or comments you all may have.
That is good news, and I see you had to get in on it a little bit at the end there. Appreciate that. We are so thankful for the work. We know that it's not something that we should presume, that we are among counties, tops among counties in the nation with respect to those financial ratings. And it is surprising to see how other factors, such as our equity and community engagement and compliance work, have come into play in this arena of work. So thank you so very much to all of our staff that ensures this work together with the board throughout the years. I'll call on Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Chair Carter. I just want to It's important to restate that again, what you just said. I really do want to do a shout out to all of Ramsey County. We're all in this together, and for this success to continue depends on all of us and the work we do. And I want to recognize that, but I also want to do a special shout out to Alex. I know even Lee Merkins, our past CFO, after years of going through this, those calls would always bring some anxiousness to him, and dread might be too strong a word, but certainly a lot of unknowns on those calls, and they're big calls. And I would just want to congratulate you on your first call and the success of continuing our string of AAA bond ratings. So congratulations and thanks to everybody in the county, and thank you, Alex, for all your work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough. Oh, go ahead, Alex.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you. It was on my bucket list, so I'm pretty glad I got that over with now. My first ratings call.
We do appreciate it so very much, and thank you for that special call out, Commissioner McDonough. I thank you again for your update. We appreciate. I'm going to check back in, County Manager, to see if there are additional county connections.
Just two brief ones, Madam Chair. There was a second town hall last night related to the mHealth Bethesda site. We've collected 161 surveys related specifically from homeless residents as a part of our work there. RamseyCounty.us/Bethesda remains a great spot to go, and that conversation with the community has been going very well. I'll be presenting with some staff team to the Capital Area Architectural Planning Board on Friday on our permit application, which was formally submitted or pre-submitted on the 4th of November. So process and progress is occurring there as well. Finally, we are in the midst of finalizing details for a November 17th community conversation as well with Luther Seminary around a site that has been offered up by Luther Seminary as a part of trying to stabilize the hotel program and move it away from hotels into other sites. That's in the St. Anthony Park area of St. Paul. That conversation's been being planned. The chair, as the local commissioner, I think you already have an awareness of that. We'll get something out to everybody else here as we go. I want to thank Luther Seminary up front for their willingness to be leaders in this space and feel called to respond as the community has needs. They wrote a wonderful communication to their campus this week talking about the opportunity in front, while also saying that it's important to first talk to the neighborhood before getting out in front of anything else. And so starting next week, that conversation will occur, and we'll be back with more as we go. And then finally, I just want to give a call out to a few staff. I received an awesome handwritten note in my inbox when I was in here last night, and I won't read the entire note, but it was a gentleman who spent time going to the Roseville Public Library while early voting was going on, and he showed up and he needed to pay his property taxes and could not figure out how to do it online and did not feel like he wanted to go to Plato where there may be a lot of people. And so in that process, he talked about these services that were provided at the service center were amazing, and he specifically called out Heidi Smith, the supervisor, Kaylee Hackbine Bryce, a navigator, and then George. I don't have George's last name, but George, hopefully his reputation will precede him, and I'm going to make sure I find him to tell him thank you. But just generally talking about how they worked with him to help him through a process he couldn't figure out, how the libraries never used to offer this, and it was a huge asset for him and his community. It was a great reminder on the ground of the conversations we've had with the board this year about trying to stand up service centers in our libraries as a part of our service network, and a demonstration that progress will continue to be made. With that, Madam Chair, County Connections is done. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. We appreciate it. There are no hands from commissioners, and we are going to move on then to our updates. I'll begin those updates with Commissioner McGuire, following through the alphabet, back up to Commissioner Fretham, and ending with Commissioner McDonough. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, I just want to, as we've been saying all these weeks, give a shout out to our election staff who worked really hard all night on Tuesday and just did a great job. So many thanks to them and all their work during last week's election. Also want to give an update on the Blue Ribbon Committee that on Metropolitan Council governance and transportation issues. We had a meeting yesterday and we heard from the Metropolitan Council MPO compliance general counsel for Met Council, and they were talking about whether Met Council was in MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization compliance, and they are. It's been legally determined that they are, and we heard from the Metropolitan Area and Greater Minnesota Paratransit Service Delivery. This concluded our information gathering. We've been hearing, as I said, from the legislative auditor, from a lot of organizations, from Met Council, from the legislature, and hearing about views on Met Council governance structure and transportation. So then we've started our discussions, and I'll just say that the start of the discussions was everyone on the committee went around and talked about their views on the role of an elected versus an appointed Metropolitan Council, and majority of people feel that that it should not be an elected body. It should be maybe some elected people would help appoint some of the people, but there was just conversation. So there's been no decision, but I just wanted to give you the update that generally people feel that it should not be, but that's still to be determined. We also talked about the Metropolitan Council's role as a metropolitan planning organization, and then the effectiveness of the delivery of regional transit. So everybody weighed in on that, and everybody had ideas on maybe how the transit delivery could be improved on and what we could do about that. But it's in the very early stages. We just all gave 3 minutes of an opening, sort of statement. So just wanted to let you all know that we're in conversations now. So every 2 weeks, we're meeting until December to talk about what our recommendations would be to the governor. So I've been talking to Brian Isaacson, who's been giving me insight on how it works with our Public Works Department. And of course, I've been sitting on the Transportation Advisory Board at TAB. General feeling was that TAB was a good organization, that it has great representation on it, generally doing the work that it needs to do. But everything's on the table right now. So I just wanted to give you an update on that committee. So, and with that, also, Madam Chair, I want to say that there's an upcoming on this Friday, the Ramsey County League of Local Governments, which I encourage all of you to attend, is doing their session this month will be on age-friendly communities. And Julia Wolf from Ramsey County, our age-friendly coordinator, will be speaking, as well as David Brosnahan, the assistant fire chief in Roseville, who's talking about how they're working on healthy aging in the communities. So that's this Friday morning from 7:30 to 9, the Ramsey County League of Local Governments. I encourage everyone to listen in on that. It's a Zoom meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And thank you very much, Commissioner McGuire. And I'll go on then to Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me begin with the Food and Basic Needs Committee. We've had $10 million of CARES money that we needed to distribute out to the community. We are now at $9.5 million that we have distributed. We are hoping by next week I will report that the full $10 million have been distributed to all the community organizations and providers that have come forward. Commissioner McGuire attended the last meeting. She came up with a good idea, and that is to start looking at the child care facilities, and we are doing that to see if we could, with the last $500,000, make sure that we get that money out the door by the end of November. The money could be used to expand existing networks. It could be used for refrigeration for the winter, like freezers or shelving. So we're really encouraging the folks to come out and apply for the money. We have $500,000 left. So if you know of anybody that could address our food needs. I encourage them to please apply, and we'd be more than happy to provide technical assistance in that endeavor. I also want to thank the staff. We've had a lot of rotating staff in this committee because they've been assigned to other issues in the county, and they've all stepped up. It's been seamless, regardless of the turnover on staff, and I want to give kudos to everybody. They've done a very good job, a great job. The other thing I want to report to is we had a meeting of the Riverview Corridor Policy Advisory Committee. The last time we met was more than 2.5 years ago, and we finished the first phase. On that committee, it's a large committee, some 17, 19 folks. They include all the cities and counties that the line goes through, all the business and labor, key players like United Hospital, Excel Center. So it was a good group. We had a good meeting. We are now entering the next phase of engineering. We will be, which would include the bridge, taking a good look at the bridge, the river crossing, and also the stationary planning. So we'd be looking forward to, hopefully our next meeting would be at the end of January, beginning of February, once we have some of the engineering work that's been put together. On that, with that committee, we are also having a community advisory committee, and they could go on our website. If anybody's interested in applying, we encourage folks to do that so we could get the robust input from the community. That's all for now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that update, Commissioner. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, one of the things that I have been involved with is at the federal level, the EPA's Local Government Advisory Committee. I chair the Revitalizing Communities work group. We have been working through our charge, coming up with some of the key areas that we want to address, including food waste and how we can kind of try to figure out what we can do to assist with having less food waste. And obviously that ties into food deserts as far as we have trying to balance out where we need food and where we obviously need to deal with the organics that come through that process as well. So trying to balance that. And so that's one of the things within the Revitalizing Communities work group that we're working on. And obviously looking at things like PFAS, which we've heard a lot about, climate change, and in general, just trying to come up with the action plan, which in the end, really, as with most things, comes down to communication, making sure that you're including all the partners. And that kind of helps me segue into what I want to talk about for Ramsey County. We have such a phenomenal, socially distanced, masked team effort that goes forward. And I just am continually pleased and proud of the work that we are all doing as a team. And in many ways as a family, trying to care for each other and for the people that need the services that we provide. So, but I also think that it's important, and I know that we all practice this as well, is making sure that the individuals, County Manager O'Connor, Deputy County Manager Hadeen, with the information regarding the AAA bond rating, the CFO, Kutzka, is just really, they're doing amazing work. And every once in a while, it doesn't hurt to reach out and say, good job, or you've got this, because the pandemic fatigue is real and we're all going through it within our own families and within our work settings and our nonprofits and all of the different things, because we're involved in so many different things. So taking a moment to recognize the amount of stress and the amount of work that goes into bringing us the information. I just really felt that I needed to say that. I also want to speak specifically to elections. Congratulations to my colleagues for being reelected. I'm proud and happy and humbled to be able to continue to serve District 7. But I also want to talk about election night. And there was a lot of, we knew that we were going to have to wait, and that was fine. But just the not knowing and the anxiety that everyone feels, whether you're on the ballot or not, it's always challenging. I got a call from Congresswoman McCollum, and she was just asking, what's going on? How is this working? And it happened to be close to the time where we got the results. And so I called her back and let her know that she could expect them within a half hour. I got a call from her yesterday, and she was thanking me and thanking Ramsey County. She said, it took longer, so I didn't get to participate in some of the speeches saying, yay, thank you to the voters and what we, trying to accomplish as we're moving forward. But she said, you know what? You had it right. You took the time. You did it right. And that is so much better than trying to rush things out and then finding out that you still need more information or something wasn't quite right. So I want, again, to emphasize just how important the work is in all parts, but especially on election night. And this particular election night was especially stressful, I think, because of the number of absentee ballots that came in and how to make sure that every vote was counted. And that was the key from the very beginning. And so I wanted you and the election staff, everyone, to know that it was noticed from the local level, from us and the city folks, and to the federal level. Good job. Kudos. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. And yes, congratulations to all reelected and to our staff who managed an incredible turnout. Going on to Commissioner Fretham.
Thank you, Chair Carter. I'll add my kudos to the election staff and team, and also all of the election judges who showed up. My husband had signed up to be an election judge, and they ended up not needing him. Maybe he said just people were there and they stuck around. He's like, I don't even think they're going to need to use me because there's so many people here who want to help. So just thank you to everyone who showed up to make sure that our democracy worked the way it was supposed to. So really appreciate everyone. Also want to talk about Commissioner McGuire and I met last week with staff to start doing the internal work to lift up the child care subcommittee that we're working on to scope that out and ensure that we are reaching out to the right people in the community to join in on that work. So very excited for us to start looking at how we can be a coordination and connector to the community right now, but also to set the stage for a hopeful recovery this spring, and how critical having childcare infrastructure that will be. And then finally, yesterday, I had the opportunity to tour a home that was purchased by the city of Shoreview, and they are working with Community Action Partnership of Ramsey and Washington County to rent as affordable housing in the community. And they have fully remodeled it, partially with the help of volunteers and students. And it is beautiful. It's less than a mile from my home. If it weren't raining, I probably would have walked over there. And so excited for the city of Shoreview for really thinking outside the box for ways to expand affordable housing opportunities in the community, and also for CAPRW and their work and partnership on this effort. And they are looking at doing this with additional homes in the area and in the city as well. So really excited to see this model and how it works and functions for us in our community.
Thank you for those updates. Appreciations to you and Commissioner McGuire for the child care work organizing, and also exciting to hear about the work that community action programs will continue to do here with regard to affordable housing. Thank you so much. Commissioner Matis Castillo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I want to echo the praise to our election staff and our team. They have worked really long hours for many, many months, and they pulled off a fantastic election. I'm looking forward to certifying the election results later this week. And so it's a huge honor to do that, and really kudos to the whole team. I also want to lift them up for their health and healing and rest in the coming weeks ahead, because I know they worked really hard, and many were also exposed to COVID. And so we want to just wrap them with care as well. So just want to lift that up. One other thing I want to mention is there has been, with the warm weather last week post a snowstorm, everybody went out to the compost site. And so we've heard lots of concerns about long lines at the compost site. So I just want to address, our staff worked very quickly, as quick as possible, to expand hours, to put additional staffing, to open longer. But it really was the opportunity of a perfect storm. We had long waits, especially on Pierce Butler. Everybody came out to dump their leaves at the same time. We're in a city, in a compact area, and not everyone can get at the same time. And so I just want to say thanks to our staff. I know it was really difficult, and lots of people were frustrated and upset. And I also asked the community just to give a little space. It's been a perfect storm with more people staying home and having the opportunity to take care of their leaves. We had a weird weather blitz here in November, and so everyone decided to go at the same time, and it was very unpredictable. It also did raise some other concerns that we will be addressing, and I just want to say that out loud, is that, in the way that traffic flows on Pierce Butler to get to that particular compost site, it also put cars in bike lanes. It was a nice day. People wanted to ride bikes in our bike lanes, but we had cars parked in it. And so we had some major traffic concerns that we're going to take a look at as well. And we hope that we don't have a situation, but planning ahead. But I really do want to say thank you to all the staff who are out there working on compost sites, and they are still open. And so people maybe can just take their time bringing their leaves in, and though it's cold today, it's going to be nice out tomorrow, and there's an opportunity to bring your leaves tomorrow and later this weekend as well. So, and then last, it's a very, very important day today, and it's why I'm wearing red and my Marine Corps pin. It is the Marine Corps' birthday, and I would be remiss if I didn't say happy birthday to my fellow Marines, 245 years. There will be Marines all over the world eating cake. So I wanted to say happy birthday and Semper Fi. And tomorrow is Veterans Day. And though we won't be together and many celebrations and normal public events have been canceled, we will all take the opportunity to recognize our veterans. In Ramsey County, we have almost 23,000 veterans, and that includes, and then we want to expand that celebration to their families, because we know that when military people serve, their families also sacrifice. And so tomorrow we will take a moment to pause and recognize our veterans. And I also want to say to our veterans and family members, if you are in need, if there is something, a service, a benefit, maybe you haven't accessed, our veterans team does stand at the ready and are eager to serve you. And you can call us at Ramsey County at 651-266-2545. Our team is ready to serve you. It would be our honor to provide benefits and service to you and your family. And so happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans and their families. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Matis Castillo. Happy birthday to you, to the Marines, and thank you for uplifting the celebration of all of our veterans. Commissioner McDonough.
Thanks, Chair Carter. I just wanted to take a moment to, Brian mentioned the town hall last night on the Bethesda homeless stuff, and I called this out last night, but I want to take a moment here to really call it out and be a little bit more thoughtful about how I was able to do that last night. Last night really demonstrated, for me anyways, and I hope for our staff and for even the community, why our work on equity, inclusion, and community engagement is so important, and the benefits that we reap as a community from that. You know, all of us, the evolution here of, you know, when the announcement first about Bethesda and all the response from the community was a lot of anger and a lot of fear, and it wasn't unwarranted. You know, fear is a very normal response to the unknown, right? And anger can be a normal response to that also. And our staff and electeds and just did an amazing job because of the work that we've done to prepare ourselves and continue to reach into community and be authentic about our engagement, to use trusted community folks on our engagement and going back to the community and helping bring community along with us on our work. And we really saw that play out. I've seen it play out more and more, as I'm sure we all have, but I really want to call out because you could just see the dramatic difference here. That first initial response of anger and fear, that first meeting where a lot of the good questions, but really focused in on Bethesda itself, right? What are we going to do there? And still a lot of some anger, and then certainly some fear, and not an understanding of the issue that we're facing with our homeless population. And staff did a fantastic job of addressing each and every one of those questions and building that trust and those connections, that by the time we got to last night's meeting, very few questions were actually asked about Bethesda and the operations itself. There was some, but very few. Almost all the questions were about the gaps and concern for individuals in our community and what are we doing about being able to do a better job in addressing the homeless issue. And it was really amazing just watching and listening to the response from the community that even with this short exposure to the homeless issue and the information that we've been sharing, the trust we've been building, how quickly they get to the understanding the gaps that we work on every single day and actually taking it to the bigger picture. There was a great question last night about this bigger picture about why we continue to address homelessness and the inequities in our homeless population and how it ties back to Jim Crow laws and redlining and even today's zoning and making those connections. And that came from a community member. That didn't come from staff. That didn't come from us. But it came from a community member really questioning and trying to get an understanding of how we can actually make a long-term difference so that we're not just responding in a crisis mode each and every day to address this issue, but how do we actually make a change in people's lives? So I wanted to take a moment to call that out, not only for you as a board, because this is it's so rewarding to watch this in play, but to really give credit to Sarah and Prince and Elizabeth and Ryan. And I started naming people, and that's a danger because Keith, I mean, everybody has just done an amazing job stepping up and responding to the community. And when they see your voice and hear your answers to those questions, it drives confidence and trust in our community and the work that you're doing for us as staff in Ramsey County. And I'm just going to share one really quick other example because it's just amazing. When we made the announcement at Boys Totem Town that we were going to open that for respite, very similar. There's a very tight-knit group out there that's very connected, and emails are flying, and the anger and the unknown and the fears and all these things were going. And we started to work with the community and really helping them understand what we were doing. And to make a long story short, by the day we opened at Boys Totem Town, they had collected hundreds and hundreds of items, personal care products, clothing, items to help support the population that was coming there. And they made homemade signs to welcome the population as they were coming on that very first day and days after that. And again, it really highlights the value of taking the time to engage with community and taking the time to build that trust with community. And it's paying off. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize that it is paying off for all of us here in Ramsey County. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McDonough, and thank you so much for highlighting the work of community, as all of us do struggle to lift up the agenda in the various areas of gaps and disparities that we see every day. Giving it good information and sharing with community as we work to make decisions with our community does actually result, and we see it day by day, in an understanding and compassionate focus by our community to help with the work that we are doing. I look forward, together with all of you, to the expansion of the work as we engage with additional neighborhoods and communities around this work, and really appreciate the positive response that I have received so far from neighbors who, in the St. Anthony area, are looking forward to a discussion regarding the possibilities there upcoming. So thanks again. We have a lot in the midst of our COVID-19 responding and trials to celebrate. And I'm thankful for the news that we've heard today regarding our finance and our continuing to remain in the upper shelf of counties who are working to maintain our ability to gain resources to do this great work. And I want to congratulate once again all who stand in that work together, and particularly Alex Kutza, who is leading this work for us now. I do want to celebrate again our election staff, and as Commissioner Matas Castillo and I work together to help certify the results, I hope that some of that staff is also looking forward to some opportunity to take vacation soon. They have done a great job, and I know that it's been quite some time since they've been able to let up and, actually enjoy some relaxation. So with a huge thank you from the entire board, I hope that some of that relaxation will happen within a short period of time as those results are certified. I also want to celebrate that we have reached the time of our first Transforming Systems Together formal meeting. And together with County Manager O'Connor, I was able to meet the members of the team, along with the members of our team internally who came to join in together with community. We were able to just share perspectives on the objectives of that work and began developing the relationships that will need to exist between our staff and our community as they build forward in transforming systems together. So congratulations to everyone who has worked to support that work, certainly to Lerone Greer and Zachary Hilton, who've been building the community as we go, and of course to the deputy managers and staff who are participating together with Transforming Systems Together. Also together with County Manager O'Connor, I participated this past week in a greater MSP meeting, and it is good to see that together with our directors or county managers, county leaders, county commissioners have come together with greater MSP and have been regularly since the beginning of this year. And now with leaders from the county are working together on perspectives on regional recovery and also putting a focus together on how to transition people who have lost their work to work that is currently available and looking to lift up the cause of racial equity throughout the region. So that is work that is being discussed in a small team together with county participation and greater MSP leadership. Finally, together with Commissioner Matas Castillo and the City of St. Paul, we celebrated the opening of 8 Mill Road this past weekend. I and Commissioner Matas Castillo on our bikes with a lot of other bikers and also people walking and pulling wagons. I saw a skateboard. Certainly, the area is set up to be to maintain traffic flow and also to welcome now a very active living presence along 8 Mill Road, that short strip which connects now to other bicycle routes and provides the ability for the type of mobility, varied mobility that we need throughout our entire Ramsey County. So we celebrated that together this weekend with community who gathered to peruse the route and also just to celebrate that it is now open again. That is the conclusion of my comments. I thank you all for yours. I want to note that we have, in the balance of our day, 2 board engagements, which will include 15 minutes. Let's take 10 minutes after this meeting, a workshop on our 2021 state and federal legislative platforms, which Commissioner McGuire will lead for us, and a county board workshop this afternoon, time certain at 1:30, which Commissioner McDonough will lead for us on economic competitiveness and inclusion, jobs and industry. Both are virtual meetings accessible to the public in the county manager's office, room 250 of the courthouse, and you should have separate links in your calendar and information for those 2 meetings. I see no hands raised. We are at the end of our agenda. I will ask you to take a 10-minute break and return at 10:15 for our workshop. This board meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.